Hi, I'm Malcolm, licensed plumbing and heating technician with R&B Plumbing. I'm here today looking at a house that the homeowners complained about low water pressure. Before we get started, I'd like to talk about the difference between low water pressure and low volume. A lot of homeowners mistake volume for pressure. So pressure is what you feel coming out of the faucet when you first open the faucet. After it's been running, that pressure drops because it's being used. Volume is the amount of water. So when you open up a faucet and you have a dribble coming out of that faucet, that's not pressure, that's volume. Pressure reducing valve, it's this big brass contraption here. So what the PRV does is it takes the street pressure, so the pressure coming in from the city or the district, wherever you live, and it lowers it to a good operating pressure in your house. The reason why it does that is because appliances like your dishwasher, washer, fridge, anything hooked up to water can only sustain so much pressure. So I'm looking for somewhere in between 40 and 60 psi. So as I look further at the PRV and shutoff assembly here, I can see a couple things. One, there's a shutoff for a hose bib right here, the upstream side of the PRV, so which means the hose bib is high pressure. I've already checked the pressure of that hose bib, and I'm getting approximately 90 psi. So again, in the house, I want to see anywhere between 40 and 60. Up above the PRV here, I can see that the pipe size reduces to 1/2 inch. So this is an older vintage house, but it's had renovations, and it's had an addition put on. So as we add more fixtures to an already small system, we're going to notice a drop in volume as more and more fixtures get used. So for example, when you're taking a shower and a toilet gets flushed, you're going to notice that, that you're going to have a volume drop. The other thing I'm looking for is the type of piping. So all this is copper, but I know in this area of the North Shore, galvanized pipe was widely used. So as I look further down, I'm looking for galvanized pipe. It looks as though there used to be galvanized pipe, but it's been replaced by copper. That doesn't mean that the galvanized pipe has been replaced all the way to the city shutoff. It just means that this portion is copper. The reason why I'm looking for galvanized pipe is it's much like an artery. As it ages, it closes in on itself. As you can imagine, as a pipe closes in on itself, that amount of volume decreases. So looking here further into our volume issue at this house, I am going to check the pressure in the house. Sometimes when our PRV, as talked about previously, fails, the pressure climbs, and it's kind of a backwards way of thinking, but the pressure climbs, but you get less volume. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my gauge on this hose bib that's on the bottom of the tank. And again, that high pressure run outside was reading 90 psi, and we'll just check the pressure inside the house here. So my gauge is reading approximately 40 psi. So it's a little bit on the low side, but it's more than adequate, and it shouldn't factor into the volume of water that's coming out of the faucets. This, I can conclude that our PRV hasn't failed, and it's working properly. It's reducing the pressure the way it's meant to.